Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intentional Advantage podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Dalton. This is episode 295. We have an amazing show for you today because I have Rachael Jayne Groover on the show. Rachael Jayne and I are great friends. You're going to really enjoy meeting her today. She's the founder of the Awaken School, which is a community of people who love to have conversations about spiritual awakenings and human potential and entrepreneurship. And not only is Rachael Jayne an incredible CEO of an Inc. 5000 company, she is an author of 3 books. She is a TEDx speaker. She is just an all-around amazing person. So today we're going to be talking about having some unshakable inner peace. Rachael Jayne has a new book that's out, and I love this book. I love it so much, I endorsed it. I'm going to read you what I said about this book. I said, Unshakable Inner Peace stands as a beacon of hope for those on a spiritual journey in the modern world, demystifying the concept of enlightenment and showing us how it's attainable for everyone. So here's the thing. If you're listening right now and you're like, I don't know, inner peace, spiritual awakenings, is that really woo-woo? Yeah, there's some woo to it, but there's a lot of really practical strategies we're going to talk about today because unshakable inner peace really is accessible for every single one of us. Now, here's what's amazing, I think, is that so often people approach me and ask me, hey, I have a book coming out. Can I come on the show? I get pitches literally every single day. Rachael Jayne didn't ask me. She didn't pitch me. I read her book and I was like, I need to have you on the show. And then Rachael Jayne has done something really amazing here. Instead of coming on the show to pitch and try to get you guys to buy the book, she's giving you a copy of the book. So everyone listening is going to be able to get a free copy of her book, Unshakable Inner Peace. So let's go ahead and let's get the conversation going. Does your life spark joy? I'm not asking if your life is good or if life feels okay. Does it spark joy? When was the last time you slipped into bed at night and thought, today felt amazing? Because if it's been more than 2 or 3 days, that's too long. I'm Tanya Dalton, a best-selling author, motivational speaker, 7-figure entrepreneur, and oh yeah, wife and mom. So I get it. I understand the stress of daily life, but as a productivity expert, I'm here to help you choose the extraordinary life. This season, we will be exploring how we can create more joy and intention into every single day. And it doesn't have to be so hard. This is the Intentional Advantage. Rachael Jayne, you and I have been good friends for a long time, several years now. And when you sent me the copy of your book, long time ago, because I read the endorsement that I wrote in the introduction. I was so blown away by this book and just how impactful it is. I'm so happy to have you here today to be talking
So
about
good
it.
to be here. Yeah. My favorite subject, spiritual awakening, human potential, how you manage that while you've got so many things going on at the same time.
Right. You still got to load the dishwasher, still got to do all the other things that are not so glamorous. You got to float back down to earth and get the things done.
Yes.
What I loved about this book, honestly, is just I feel like you have this amazing energy about you. It's very calming, very put together. You're such an incredible person. And I think everyone looks at you from the outside and is like, she's got it together. She's enlightened. She's got all these things, right? And you are so vulnerable and so raw in this book. It was like this breath of fresh air where you were just like, oh my gosh, I suffer from tall poppy syndrome, which I'd never heard of before. And it was just so refreshing. Let's talk about tall poppy syndrome because is that an Australian saying? I hadn't heard
It
that.
is. If you imagine all the poppies, like flowers growing out of the ground together, and if one gets a little too tall, we better cut it down to size. So they're all about the same. So it's very much a culture, Australia, of, play down your accomplishments, play down your talents, be modest and don't brag. So I've had that training going on all the while, having to have my own business and speaking and wanting to be something in this world, but it's not okay. It's not okay for you to shine. It's not okay for you to think you're all that, because I got a lot of that whenever I excelled at something early on in my life.
Well, it's really hard to shine your light on everybody and to do the amazing things you're doing when you're trying to stay really, really small. And I
Exactly.
have to be honest, I've experienced this too. I have this really interesting juxtaposition of wanting to do big things and wanting people to see them and recognize them, but also not wanting people to see them because I'm supposed to
Yes.
stay small because
Yes.
otherwise that's overshining other people. So
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting to read about how you were dealing with that, especially someone who I look at as being so put together and so amazing. I think that's one of the things that's fascinating is we look on the outside of everybody else and we're like, "Oh, she has it together. She doesn't have this internal monologue that I have. She doesn't have these things like limits,"
Right.
right? And we all
Right,
do.
right.
We all do.
Absolutely. And it's a process because we've got to put it in context. This book came through me before we met. And so what you're reading is what I was going through in 2018. And so you now know the Rachel Jayne that doesn't have this dialogue anymore. What people see who've only met me now are seeing what's happened from me having to look at a lot of things and process a lot of things to allow my mind to be silent unless I need it. And so when
Mhm.
I hear people say, "Oh, you're all put together," it's like because you knew me after this book, not before. Like people who know me before and after, they saw what was happening. There was a massive change happening in the moment as this was occurring, and they can see the personality running the show prior to this book, and then the personality finding its more relaxation point, and not having to be like "Ah," stressed and pushing too hard and critical of myself and judging others and all those things.
That's a testament of itself. Just how I know you as this, I mean, you're so grounded and so, like I said, 1,000 times already, put together and just amazing to watch this journey. It shows that this is attainable for everyone, right? That
Yeah,
there is
yeah,
this ability to find that unshakable inner peace. And I think that's the thing is so often we feel like we're the only ones with this inner dialogue or we're the only ones dealing with whatever the shit is that we're dealing with.
yeah,
We think we're the only one and we feel so alone. So I feel like you've just blown the doors open on that. And you talk about this idea that we have these adaptive strategies to dodge what we don't want to look at, right? We
yeah.
have these ways of kind of bobbing and weaving so that we don't have to look at some of the possibilities or you could even sometimes have physical reactions to it. You talk about that in the book. Can we talk about some of that, even how you reacted when this first started coming into your life?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want when the book was happening and I'm writing it, I'm like, but what's everyone going to think of me? There was a lot of I don't want to write this book because I know everyone's going to read it, and it was very raw. So the terror that came up around that, like literally the fear in my body that came up, and also the fear and the terror of the spiritual awakening process, which is losing yourself, like realizing
Mhm.
you're not who you think you are. And all that I had built by that time. Like in
Yeah.
2018, I had built, a multi seven-figure business, and a lot of people knew me, and I had, hundreds of clients in our school. And like if I failed or I was like, oh, I'm just going to go to India and meditate for 3 years, like they were going to see this failure, or they were going to see this change. And I was very, very scared of other people's judgment. So it was a terror. And I realized through this book that there's three things that have to happen in at the same time for change really to occur that we're talking about here. The change of like life is tense, the mind is tense, you're stressed, to a real deep relaxation. And those three things, your psychology. So if you don't look, like you were saying, if you don't look at your shadows, you don't look at the psychology of how it keeps hooking you. The answer is not through law of attraction. It's not through just focus on the positive, because your, how they would say, dominant vibration, your primary frequency is still your old psychology. It doesn't matter if you're focusing on something else. So psychology is one thing. You've got to look at what you don't want to look at, but also the somatic experience. That's the second. That's the physical and energetic way that you hold yourself, the way that you breathe, the way that you are. And if you don't look at that, if you're like, oh, I'm up in my head and go doing my mindset and I just need to think more positive, that energy is not coming through your body. You're just creating more and more of a knot of push, of not being receptive, of whatever. So that's the second. And the third, which is all in the book, is spirituality. And to me, spirituality is synonymous with receptivity, which I did not really get until this book came through, which is receptive to something larger than your personality, just receptive to whatever you call your spiritual source. And so when those three things, when I look at those three things versus run from those three things, that's when massive change happened for me. And I was lucky because I'd already been, I was studying this, I was teaching these three things, but this book told me over and over again, chapter after chapter, all the places that I did not still understand about what the path of awakening is for the mind and the body, a stabilized, peaceful place. So now I could operate from that.
We talk a lot about the mind body connection, but there's also the spirituality. So, all three of those, I love that too, because that's a lot of the work I've been doing recently is that somatic. What are we holding in our bodies? There's a lot of research out there that shows that we literally hold our emotions and we
Yeah,
stagnate a lot of energy in our bodies. I mean, right now, for those of you listening, think of something that really makes you mad, like an experience in your life that makes you angry. Think of it right now. I guarantee you feel a tension somewhere in your stomach or in your back or in your neck or maybe even like right above your eye. That's where we're holding it in our bodies. So I love that you're shining light on this because it's held all throughout our bodies. And
absolutely.
and realizing and recognizing that is so huge. So those three together. I want to talk about the psychology because on page 66 of the book, you said, when someone, so this is you before all of this awakening that you went through, when someone successful in business says I should do something I'm not doing, I often reject it. If I'm honest with myself, I don't dismiss it because it wouldn't work, or I feel they're steering me in the wrong direction for my lifestyle. I push against it because it would bring up my insecurities if I had to do what they were saying. That's that's the self-sabotage that we do. I know I do that because in diving into my own psychology, I love to play the role of the problem solver. And if somebody else is here to solve my problems, how can I play that role? That's the subconscious role that I really revel in and I seek out in my relationships. I seek out all the time without even realizing and recognizing it if I'm not truly being
Exactly.
observant.
Exactly. People love saying, well, that's just not who I am. That's just not my personality. That's not authentic. But when you're working with your psychology and your spiritual awakening process, you're trying to get to a place where I'm not my personality. And so when you just go, that's just not me, that's just me, that's not authentic, it's keeping just habitual conditioning in place. Now, of course, there is such a thing called personality, and Tanya's is different than mine. But I had to really wrestle with that versus like, oh, that's just going against what I'm good at, and realize that growth comes from difficulty. When you talk about like personal growth, we only grow through difficulty. We don't grow by going on the next cruise, with
Mhm.
some
It would be nice
lovely,
though.
it
It
would
would be
be
so
it'd be so
nice.
nice. And we can get ahas and insights and all of that. But I think a lot of people are addicted to that, going to workshops or
Mhm.
cruises or listening to the influencer. But real growth happens when you're up against the thing that you do not want to be up against. And you know that it's important because some reason you are massively triggered, not just a little
Mhm.
triggered,
Mhm.
massively triggered. And that was like, this book made me go, stay there, stay there, stay there. I need specifics. right? Like, tell me what to do. Am I supposed to be breathing? Am I supposed to be thinking positive? Am I supposed to be,
I just
all
want a
of that?
checklist. Just tell me what to do and I will do it. Yeah. But a lot of times, even when we hear that advice, we get the checklist or we learn about, let's say, meditation or quiet solitude or those types of things, we push against it. We go, "Oh, that's not going to work for me. That's not
Yes,
for me." Right?
yes, yes,
Yeah, it is this recognition that the things that we need to do are uncomfortable, and a lot of the hardships that we go through, that truly is the biggest best
yes,
lessons that we learn. We're so busy trying to control so much without even realizing it, without recognizing it. We're trying to control our experiences. Trying to control the outside world. And you talk about in the book that your desire to not feel unworthy that drove all your choices, all of your ambition, all of your decisions and your behaviors. Just as for me, a lot of my wanting to be the problem solver drives a lot of my choices.
yes,
And when you don't recognize that, you are trying to control the entire life experience that you're having. And receiving means
absolutely.
sitting back and actively choosing a little bit of discomfort, which is we're talking about it very easily here, but it's not easy to say, you know what? This
Never let
makes
go.
me feel violently ill. Like the thought of it makes me want to throw up, or it makes me want to go scream, or it makes me want to crawl out of my own skin because it feels so foreign to me. I always tell my kids that's a sign we need more of that. If you're feeling so uncomfortable and it aligns with your values, let's go ahead and throw that in there,
Yes,
right?
yes.
If it makes you uncomfortable, that's a really good sign to stop and say, hold on, why do I feel uncomfortable? Is it that the situation really doesn't fit me, or is that my ego stepping in? Is that my
What an
mind kind of
exceptional
taking
mum
over?
you are.
Well, you're very kind.
Wow. Seriously.
Thank you. Well, I mean, my kids are they're pretty well versed in a lot of the spirituality. I think just because I'm an open book and I talk about these kinds of
Yeah,
things all the
yeah,
time, which is why I'm
yeah.
excited that we're talking about it here on the podcast
It's
because
great.
this has been, I had my radical sabbatical where I left and I was gone. I wasn't putting out any content for 8 months because I was doing a lot of this work and it has transformed me. It's still transforming me. So, why wouldn't I give those gifts to my kids? Like, "Here, why don't you
Yeah,
skip ahead where I was?
totally.
I was here. I don't need you to start here. You can start where I am now." That helps them out tremendously. You've mentioned ego a couple of times. I wanna talk about ego because ego is a lot of what drives our decisions. That's the voice in our head. And you say ego gets such a bad rap. It's like it's the mean kid, and it's really not. Can you reframe how we look at our ego and that inner voice in our head?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you just think of the ego personality, it's giving us a sense that we are a separate self. And I don't know about you, if I felt like a jello was part of everybody else walking down the street, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I'm doing. We have to be able to feel like I am separate to Tanya, I'm separate to you listening, like, because that's important. And strengthening one's ego is important, right? Because when you get a stronger sense of self, you have more self confidence, you have more fortitude with the things that you want to do in the world, you have better boundaries, all of those things. So it does get a bad rap because we do need that. But how I think about it is we have two lines of development when we're talking about the ego and the spiritual awakening process that can lead you to unshakable inner peace is the growing up is the ego. How can I get more functional as a person? How can I get more healthy as a person? My relationships and my relationships with money and my career and whatever. And that is the psychological journey and the energy journey. And I've got to be a better separate self. So that's happening. But I've also got this waking up journey. And the waking up journey is the realization that I am not this.
Mhm.
So you can feel why it's so hard for people to thread the needle of real enlightenment because you have two lines of development that are pulling you in an opposite way. This one's saying, be more of a separate self and really strong in that. And this one's saying, you're no one.
Right.
So you have to work with those two together and see them for what they are. And many people aren't very interested these days, let's be honest, in spiritual awakening, in losing oneself and realizing you're nobody. Like, it doesn't sound very sexy. So most
No.
people aren't very interested in it. You and I are, because we got to a place where we built a very strong ego that was working for us in many, many ways.
Hmm.
We built the business, we have great relationships, the money was flowing, all of those kinds of things, because we built a strong sense of self. But I knew in 2018 that I was still too tense, and I was still pushing, and I was worried if I was going to lose it all, and I've got to keep everything going because now I've got 12 people on my team and all that. I was like, I want relief now. I know I can do anything, but now I want the true relief of beingness, while, by the way, being able to live in this world and create magic and create miracles. So I'm definitely, and Tanya says, oh, I'm so centered and relaxed. I'm like, but I'm like she knows I am doing a lot. I have a full schedule. I can be as edgy and productive as the next person. But the difference
Absolutely.
is, it was with resistance before and fear before and the mind going before. And now that's not happening. And so there's so much more energy and fluidity to the process. So I'm not saying you have to stop everything and, be relaxed all the
Right.
time. You'll just have that in your being as your default.
Well, I think a lot of times people think that to find this type of inner peace, you have to go meditate on a mountaintop. You have to go live with the monks. You have to go, and it's just like, well, I can't do that. I've got kids, or I've got, a life. I've got a job. I've got a business. I've got all these things. And I think Rachel Jayne, what you say so beautifully is that yes, you have both. They need to work together. And
Yes.
sometimes it is truly silencing one part to really focus in. And I
Yes.
love you talk about in the book, you talk about how we have this kind of running commentary, this strong mental muscle that we're having these thoughts that keep coming up and we're strengthening those muscles almost like weightlifting. And for
Yes.
you it was, who am I to write this book? Who am I to write this book? Like what?
Yes.
Wait, I'm going to have to, other people are going to read this book?
Yeah. I'm not worthy of this message.
It's scary when you step outside and you do something different. So I
Yeah.
love that you're having this running commentary. And the book is this conversation that you're having inside your head back and forth. And it just made it all feel so real. And at one point you talk about, I have this whole message going on, this mental muscle that's being built about who am I, right? And you talk about how do I not have that be the message I hear?
Yeah, there's a few different ways you can do it. Essentially, what Tony's talking about is when you've got something spinning in your mind and you know enough about, well, if you keep spinning it, it's going to just attract more of that. It's just going to create more of that. So you want to stop it. You cannot resist that voice. And that's what most people do is go away. I don't want you. Why are you still here? I thought I dealt with that. I've been to so much therapy already. Why is it back? All that kind of stuff, right? I imagine going under the water surface, because when you go under the water surface and there's a sound at the top, you can still hear that sound of the boat or the kids playing or whatever. But now it doesn't sound like you're a stupid person. Now it sounds like and
Yep.
and it's kind of funny, it's cute. So do something that won't resist it. Allow that, because your ego mind is a broadcast, and your infinite nature that is unconditional and doesn't need anything or want anything, is levity itself, is a different broadcast. And it's, are you tuning to your ego thoughts, or are you tuning to the infinite streaming through everything? And this book helped me really see through some of these practices, like, oh, I think I'm attuned to my spiritual source and I'm actually not. and ways to shift that. But you cannot resist, because as soon as you resist something, it persists.
Well, and that idea of going under the water, I think, is so interesting because you talk about if you have a friend who's talking, right? That's your ego, your friend who's talking, and they're just going on and on and on and on and on. If you were to take their head and push it under the water, they would fight you, right? They
Yes,
should fight you
yes,
to get up for air. And that's the resisting. It's putting forth so much energy. If instead you choose to just go underneath the water and let that kind of teacher from Snoopy, that voice, go
mm,
on, and it's like, okay. But the problem is if you stay above the water and you keep listening to this friend, that toxicity is going to start invading into your thoughts.
yeah,
And this is what Rachel Jayne talks about in the book with strengthening these mental muscles of, if you have these thoughts and you keep entertaining them, I look fat. I look fat. I'm way too much. I don't like the way I look. And you keep listening to them and acknowledging them and engaging in them, you're making that conversation stronger instead of saying, oh, that's an interesting thought. I'm going to go ahead and put you away. I'm going to
yes,
go ahead and duck my head under the water because I'm not going to listen to this anymore.
yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
it really is choosing where you want to focus and where you want your thoughts to be.
Exactly. And, a lot of people that we work with, they've been on a personal and spiritual development path. So they understand the importance of therapy or coaching or this or that, right? But what sometimes they get caught, the traps that they get caught in that just keep this improvement train versus a real letting go into peace is they'll take that thought, I'm not able to do this or what have you, whatever it is. And they grab onto it and go, well, I need to work with this thought in order to make it go away. And like, why do I still have this block? And why do I? And it's that still is putting it in place. That's one of the traps that I was in, is I'm kind of being nice to the voice and being not, okay, now what do we need to do in order to get you on board? And it's like, no, we need to change the dial.
Yeah. Well, I think we get caught up sometimes in the why. Why is that voice there? Where does this come from? I literally just had this conversation
Yes.
with Jack last week because he's struggling with a few things and he's been meditating on it. And, I'm like, you need to move on from this. And he goes, but I need to know why I think these things. And I said, who gives a shit? Why? Why? It doesn't matter. What matters in
Conditioning.
right? It doesn't matter. We could spend our entire lifetime diving into why we have this specific thought,
Yes. Yes.
what our parents said to us in passing that solidified that as a belief, or what a teacher mentioned, or what the mean kid at school said that got us to this point. But that's not really what's most important. What's most important is
Exactly.
what you do with the story. And by
Yes.
going back and looking into it, you're fertilizing it. You're fertilizing it with
Absolutely.
so much manure that it's just
Absolutely.
blooming and creating this whole garden of thought in your head. And the truth is,
Exactly.
we just need to put a little roundup on that, get that weed out of there, and move forward, shift the way we're looking. And again, that sounds really easy, but it is. I love that analogy of going underneath the water, where it's like, I'm not going to give you the attention. It's like a child throwing a tantrum. You give them attention, guess what? Next time you go to Target, that tantrum's going to happen again, right? You choose to
Exactly.
ignore them, eventually the behavior changes. So we're not
Exactly.
saying bury it. We're not saying that trauma doesn't exist. We're saying
Yeah.
we can choose how we want to move forward from it. And we've all had a
Yes.
lot of trauma in our lives. It is a choice how we decide to move forward.
Yes. I think if anyone has not been on what we call the why free diet for at least 30 days, it's magical what it does to the system. Where it's like, I'm not going to ask why for 30 days. And that's what Tony's talking about. And it opens up something else. And yes, trauma is a different thing because it is so connected to the mind body process.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it does equal what we're talking about: psychology, somatics, and spirituality. And again, what I was doing is I thought I was on the spiritual path. I was on the spiritual path, but I just didn't get what I didn't get until I got it, and this book was helping me see the 5 to 6 traps of what I thought was the way to drop in and stop asking why. It's just one of them for sure.
I mean, the book it's fantastic. I love this book, and I love that you are literally giving it away. So, anyone listening today, I'll put the link in the newsletter. I'll put the link on the podcast page, but go to tanyadalton.com/RJ, RJ for Rachael Jayne, tanyadalton.com/RJ. And Rachael Jayne is giving you a copy of this book, which if I were to show you, I have so much underlining in here and so many aha moments. And the way the whole book unfolds with this conversation that's going back and forth of you with some of your insecurities and just this true, just realness of, are you sure? I don't know about this. Like, what do I think? It was so empowering because it's the same thoughts that you might have as you're reading the book. Like, is
Right.
that possible for me? Can I really do those things? So it's such a fascinating way that the book is written, and it's so good. So I want to encourage everybody, go grab a copy because Rachael Jayne, her work that she does, not just with the book, with the Art of Feminine Presence, which I know you have coming up very soon, the work you do with people is revolutionary. It's so impactful and it shifts people's trajectories. Rachael Jayne's Art of Feminine Presence, as I mentioned, is coming up. I have a link to that, tanyadalton.com/Groover, which is Rachael Jayne's last name. Those links I'll put in our newsletter as well. I'm so generous for you to give away copies of the book. And I think, you know, that speaks volumes of what you're here to do and how you impact people. Just your generosity with that.
Well, it's a great way for people to just read 2 chapters and they will know within 2 chapters if this is your cup of tea or not, and to just feel, because it isn't for everyone. And so
Mhm.
it is like picking up, if any of you listening are picking, life is pretty good. Like, you've got some issues, you've got some things going on, but you're really, really wanting to get off the mental and emotional roller coaster for good, then that's it. And so this is a way that you could just pick it up, read a few chapters. If it's not for you, no. And if it is for you, I think it's going to be a real powerful workshop in a way of as you're reading what was happening to me. And would love to see anyone at our Art of Feminine Presence, which is home edition. We have women coming from all over the world, and they can have their own retreat and sanctuary, and that would be fun too.
I know, I love that you're doing it virtually. It makes it so accessible. That is such a great way to look at it. Read a chapter or two. If you're like, well, not for me, there's no loss there, right? You tried something. But I will say, if you think, oh, this makes me a little bit uncomfortable, oh, that must be a cue that this is time for you, right? Honestly, I always dive into, I wonder why I feel so uncomfortable with this, because that's a really good way to kind of dive underneath the surface to understand. And then a lot of times it's like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable because it's different and it's a shift. And that's what I'm
Yeah,
looking for in my life. I'm looking to make shifts. I'm looking to evolve. I'm looking to change. If I am the same person this
yeah,
year as I was when I'm 25, oh Lord,
right.
I'm missing out on a lot of a lot of great wisdom I've gotten over the last 25 years.
Yes.
So I love that. So thank you so much, Rachael Jayne. It is so great to have you on the show. I think we could honestly talk forever, and I know we can because when we're not recording,
We
we
did.
have these amazing phone calls. But thank you so much, first of all, for your generosity with the book, but also for coming on today and sharing with people. And thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for being so honest and raw with who you are and what your journey has been about and what it's looked like.
My pleasure. Love talking to you always.
Didn't I tell you Rachael Jayne was amazing? I love how she has this calmness, that relaxed state about her. We talked about that a lot, but the fact that she wrote the book, Unshakable Inner Peace, before she got to that state, I think is amazing. And as I said on the show, I feel like it's a testament to how much this work can transform you. It really can. I love those conversations about the ego and how we have these inner conversations, these inner dialogues, quieting your mind and getting really clear. I felt like there were so many great takeaways. Rachael Jayne is giving away copies of the book, tanyadalton.com/RJ. Get your free copy. That whole idea of, hey, pick it up. Read a couple chapters. If it's not for you, move along. But maybe it is. Maybe this is the sign you've been waiting for, that this is the time for you to pick up a book like this and really dive into some of those things that feel uncomfortable, that cause a little bit of discomfort. For me, I know that's when my biggest, greatest lessons have really hit home and have really allowed me to thrive and to flourish. If you are not getting my Substack, where we go a lot deeper on the podcast, go to tanyadalton.com/connect. You're going to get all kinds of extras, all kinds of bonus materials, and going behind the scenes. It's a great way for us to have a community that goes beyond just listening to the podcast. So I hope to see you there over at the Substack, tanyadalton.com/connect. There were so many amazing concepts in Rachael Jayne's book. I told her before we hit record, I was like, there is no way we're going to have time to go through every single bit of goodness in here. I just barely skimmed the surface. So I hope you'll join us there. But we did talk about some amazing things. And I'm hoping it's getting you to think about your ego, thinking about your inner voice, thinking about how your thinking works. That whole idea of your mind and your body and your spirit and getting that alignment. Because truly, when we have that alignment, when we start questioning our thinking, when we actively step into discomfort, knowing that's where growth happens, that's when we've got the intentional advantage. Ready to take action on what we talked about on today's episode? The easiest way to get started is my 5-minute miracle mini course. It's normally $97, but you get it for free when you join my free Substack. It'll boost your productivity and it will double your happiness. Plus, you'll get access to all kinds of extras from the podcast. Just go to tanyadalton.com/connect. And don't forget to follow The Intentional Advantage on your podcast player so you never miss an episode.